We're going to look at a type of driving lane that many of you have probably used before, and that's the center left turn lane, also known as a two-way left turn lane. Let's check out the right and wrong ways to use them.
First of all, we're not talking about dedicated left turn lanes like this. These are also used for making left turns, but they're only used by traffic going in one direction. On the other hand, center left turn lanes will be located between lanes of traffic that are going in opposite directions, and vehicles coming from both directions can use this lane to make left turns. The start of a center left turn lane is sometimes marked with signs, but these lanes will always be marked in some way on the road itself with stripes, lines, or words to indicate where they start and end. There's one that starts just after this intersection, and the beginning of it is marked by yellow lines and stripes. The center left turn lane itself will be marked by solid yellow lines on the outside and broken yellow lines next to them on the inside. There will also be turn arrows pointing in both directions indicating the lane is for making left turns for vehicles coming from both ways. And depending on the road you're on, center left turn lanes can go on for quite a while. So that's where you'll find them and what they look like, but why are they used? These lanes are designed to improve the flow and safety of traffic. Here's a 4-lane road with 2 lanes going in each direction without a center left turn lane. When a vehicle needs to turn left and has to stop and wait for a gap in the oncoming traffic, everyone behind them has to either slow down, stop, or change lanes and go around them. This slows down the flow of traffic and increases the risk of accidents. Where 2-way left turn lanes can be used, when someone needs to turn left, they can pull into the center lane and other traffic can continue on unimpeded. They're especially useful on roads like this, where there are several entry and exit points to different businesses right in a row, allowing traffic to keep moving while other drivers make their left turns. Here's how to properly use the center left turn lane. I'm wanting to turn left up ahead at the sign, so I've moved into the left lane of traffic as I approach. When I get within about 200 feet or 3 to 4 seconds away from where I need to turn, I'm going to move over into the center lane. It's not important that you get that distance exactly right, but for reference, 200 feet is 2/3 the length of a football field, or about 13 average-sized vehicles put end to end. Before I make any lane change, I put on my left turn signal, take a quick look over my left shoulder, and then move into the center lane, driving in it until I get to where I need to turn. There's no oncoming traffic to yield to, so I complete my turn into the business entrance. Once you move into the 2-way left turn lane, you will sometimes need to stop and wait for a gap in oncoming traffic or for pedestrians to go by before you can safely make your left turn. Pedestrians and oncoming traffic always have the right of way. I apologize to whoever's driving this vehicle, but I'm going to use them as a bad example. If you pull into the center left turn lane and have to stop, make sure your vehicle is fully within the yellow line boundaries of the lane and not sticking out into another lane. Also make sure you stop with your wheels pointed straight ahead and not turned. That way, just in case you would get hit from behind by another vehicle, you would be pushed forward in the center lane instead of possibly being pushed into oncoming traffic. There can be more than one vehicle at a time in the center lane. There are 3 in a row here, taking their turn waiting for a break in traffic so they can each turn in at the same place. And notice that all 3 of them are stopped with their front tires pointed straight ahead. Good job. So if you're trying to make a left turn and there is already someone in the center lane, go ahead and get in the lane behind them. Once they turn, move up and then make your turn when it's safe to do so. Sometimes you may also share the center lane with a vehicle coming from the opposite direction. I entered the center lane and the other vehicle entered at about the same time, so we need to take turns. My exit point is a short distance behind them, so I'll have to wait for them to turn and then move up so I can make my left turn. While moving into the center lane 200 feet before your turn is ideal, sometimes you won't have that much distance to work with. In this case, on a road where there are multiple exit points that drivers are trying to turn into, or I need to turn up ahead is between 2 other vehicles that are already in the lane. I pull into the lane as soon as I can and make my turn. In this instance, you have to work with the distance you have. And just make sure you have your turn signal on well ahead of time to let other drivers around you know your intentions. If you're pulling out from a side road and turning left onto a road with a center left turn lane, if there's no oncoming traffic for you to yield to, you can simply drive across the center lane and go on into the nearest driving lane going to the left. But if you're pulling out to turn left and there's traffic in the lane you want to pull into, the center left turn lane can also be used to help you enter the flow of traffic. Pull into it first and then wait for a gap to be able to move over into traffic like this truck did. Sometimes you can pull into the center lane and then move into traffic almost immediately. But in this case, there was continuous traffic coming from both directions. I waited until there was a gap in the traffic from the left, and then pulled into the center lane and stopped because there was oncoming traffic from the right in the lane I needed to pull into. When you're in a situation like this, put on your turn signal, watch the oncoming traffic behind you in your mirrors and by looking over your shoulder, and when you see a gap in traffic open up, do a shoulder check and move into the nearest lane. This is something that takes practice, but the center turn lane can definitely help you move into traffic. When you do leave the center lane, make sure you wait for a sufficient size gap so that when you pull into the lane, you don't cause other traffic to have to swerve or slow down for you. Many times, just before an intersection, a two-way left turn lane ends where a dedicated left turn only lane begins. They're to be used for two separate purposes, and there are lane markings that show where one ends and the other begins. Sometimes the situation calls for drivers to have to use these lanes a little differently. I need to turn left into this business entrance up ahead, but to do that, I have to pull slightly past the end of the center lane and into part of the dedicated left turn lane in order to complete my turn. And that's okay, because there's no other option at that location. In this situation, there was a traffic accident on the left that caused a slowdown on drivers being able to turn left at the intersection ahead. For safety reasons, this caused vehicles to have to line up in the dedicated left turn lane all the way back into the center left turn lane to allow ongoing traffic to pass by. Center left turn lanes are not to be used for passing slower vehicles in front of you and then pulling back in front of them. That can get you a ticket. And also, if where you're going to turn is way down the road, don't enter the turn lane too soon and drive in it for a long distance. That can also get you a ticket.